You designed it. You fixed it. Good luck. Oh no, you don't have to be like that. I said, no, you didn't even give me credit. I would have.
Your name is on it.
Your name is on it. You take ownership. But again, it also goes back to what you've just said, Teresa, which is so important. The client. I want this lady. But not only that, it's professionalism. It's showing I'm a professional at my job. You're not just sucking thumbs and going in. And that's, believe it or not, that's what SpaceX and Microsoft and AWS and banking organizations look at. They look at how you present yourself. And of course, when they see that documentation, I see them, okay, call Teresa or Timedio. They're the engineers. They are the ones to help because they helped design that infrastructure.
You're being accountable for your work.
Absolutely.
That's that confidence.
Correct. So as you can see now, my deployment has now completed. Now I'm going to close that again. We're not going to click this button. We're going to go back to the top and we're going to go back to Azure Virtual Desktop. Once you've clicked on, you should see here underneath recent services, you can see all the stuff that we've used. So I could click on there and go back to my Azure Virtual Desktop. So once that pool has been deployed, we can then kind of move forward. And I don't want to move forward until we are all at that particular stage, because that is really important. Now, if I come back into my host pools and I go to my host pool over here, you will notice now I'm getting a little error here. And this error is not so much an error, it just says it can't connect. We're coming to here, it says, oh, these virtual machines are unavailable. Don't worry, they will come online on their own. Let's just wait a little bit, they'll come online on their own. And again, you just have to be patient at the end of the day. And as you can see, if I've downloaded an Excel spreadsheet and it just tells you what's happening. So I'm not too worried about that. We want to go back to our host pools and we want to hit refresh and we want to wait for those to come online. And then once those come online, we can go ahead and move forward. And if you notice here, the assignments, we've got nothing on assignments and management here. So let's just give that a few more minutes. And I know my Azure node in New Zealand has been having issues, but that's not going to stop us from moving forward. So we want to see the number 2 in this here. So we just have to be a little bit patient and that would come online shortly. We just have to just be patient while those machines come online. And then once they come online, we can go ahead and do other bits and pieces. So once it's come online, guys, let me navigate back. So again, you would want to just go to your Azure. I'll start again, go to Virtual Desktop. You click on your host pools and you click on your AVD pool. Click here to move this and just wait until that turns green. When that turns green, let me know, guys, and we'll move forward. So we'll see what's going on. So again, if you click in here, it tells us that the virtual machines are unavailable. We just need to wait. Now, while that's waiting, I'm going to just show you something. We've got this drain mode. And you're probably saying, well, what is drain mode is off, drain mode is on? If I come down here and I say, let's turn drain mode off. See, drain mode, this session will not allow any hosts to connect to it. So if drain mode is turned on, no one can connect to your virtual machine. Now, why would you have drain mode? Let's say I'm having a problem with that VM. I'm telling people to log off so I can look at that node meaning that VM. If I don't turn that off and I try and work on it, I'm going to have people trying to connect to it all the time, because some people are thick as 2 planks. They'll carry on trying to connect if stuff's not working. So if I went and said, turn drain mode on, what's going to happen? Nobody can connect to that virtual machine now. So now I can troubleshoot and work on that VM. And let's say I finished working on that VM, I can say turn drain mode off, and drain mode being turned off allows people to log back in. They can now log back in to my session. So this is taking a bit too long. So I know it should have come online already from experience. So we'll give it a few more bits and then we'll go from there. But I want you guys to make sure that you've gone to your AVD infrastructure, you've selected your host pool, you've added your host pool, and you have you see green VMs. Now, do you see your VMs turned green here, guys? Just let me know when you see your VMs turn green.
Please, guys, you can actually unmute and actually give a feedback to that.
Yeah, or even if you just type in the even if you just type in the message, yes, green, 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 then I know that thing. And I'm talking about green. The number should say 2 here. It says the virtual machines which you can connect to should say 2. So that is what I'm waiting for you guys to tell me if you've got that. So the virtual machines that you should connect to should say 2. And mine is taking its grandmother's time, and I might have to deploy to another region. We'll just give it a second and see what's happening. So that is thinking about it.
It's still deploying on some other machine here.
Okay, so it's still deploying. So while that's deploying, we'll just I'll close that down, and that should have deployed already, because normally when you get this message here, it tells you here the deployment has succeeded. If we go to the AVD group, we can see here there's our VMs. So I know the deployment has successful, but obviously AVD hasn't brought those VMs online. So if it takes too long, I'll quickly redeploy them again, because I know the New Zealand node has an issue. So again, guys, at the end of the day, I'll go through this quickly. If you watch while we're waiting for the others to deploy, I'm going to my resource group, clicking create. So just watch what I'm doing, and I'll just call this one AVD. I'm just going to go review and create and just show you one more time so that you guys are very familiar with how things are done. That's created that resource group. I'm just going to go straight to my virtual network. Going to click create, and I'll add another one, put that into here, and I'll just call it AVD VNet, and go next on IP addresses, and I'll just call this one AVD VNet. Click save. Next on security, next, and create. Once that's deployed, we'll click create, and that'll go ahead and deploy that. So again, I'm just going through this one more time so that you guys know how to do this, because this is what's going to make you lots of money at the end of the day. If I bounce back into my host pools here, and let's click on here. Yeah, it might be my Azure node that's giving me, I think they might be doing work on the Australia East node. So that's okay. We're deploying it to different nodes. I'll come back into here. I can have a look. My virtual network was created. I'll go back into my AVD environment. I would create a host pool, select that AVD lab, and I'll just call this one AVD pool 2. I'll go next and pool type. I'll just go there, and I'll just change it to 2. Go next, because we only want 2 people connecting to it. Go next on virtual machines, next, and next all the way through, and let that go ahead and create that pool for us, and then we'll go ahead and deploy our virtual machine. And this is yep.
I thought you were going to change the location, like due to.
Did I change the look? I think on this, we'll see on the pool node, because I'm sure it went to. I used East US, so it should have deployed that by possibility. So now again, like I said, if we come into our host pool, and we come to our host pool, so this is what we need to look at. We need to have a look where that location is. That's in Australia East. Now, again, if I click on that host pool, we need to make sure that, let's have a look, that still hasn't deployed. So I think there's something wrong with Australian East pool. But if I go back into my Azure Virtual Desktop, we will go into my pool 2. And let's just quickly go. So the location is East US. So that's absolutely fine. If I went back into my ABD and I came into the overview, went into my host pools, and I went into pool 1, what we wanted to have a look at, and there is Australia East. So we want to make sure it's in the right location, and that for some reason, I think Australia is doing work on it. I've learned that from experience. So we're in pool 2. So our pool 2 is being created. I'll go ahead and session hosts, and I'll very quickly deploy a VM. We'll just call this I'll just call this one IT. And it's in the East US, no infrastructure. I'm going to say standard, and again, I'll choose a Windows 10 image. I'll choose this one, the latest one here, Windows 10 with Office 365. Number of VMs, I'll do 2. Change that to speed up the deployment. Select my virtual network, ABDNet, leave it at the basic, come down, select Active Directory, make sure it's an Azure Active Directory, and I will call that user ABD user, type in the password, sorry, ABD lab, because I've got a user there already. Goodness, ABD lab, type in my password, and type in my password again, and go next on tags. Take that off, I'll just go next. Make sure that the subscription, because you can always look at the top, you can see here it says the location at the top under basic is East US, and the virtual machine location is East US. So that's all looking good. I'll go ahead and deploy that. That should deploy pretty quick. So I'm not too sure why that other one is taking its sweet grandmother's time to deploy. So again, if I went back into my resource group here, and we decided to go back to Azure Virtual Desktops, we go to our host pools, and I'm doing this to show you can create multiple pools. Yep.
Sorry about that. There's a question. Believe was a question.
All right, thank you so much. Boss, the questions goes this way. Process of creating the virtual desktop. The last part, you have to create the username and password, and the user must be AD username and password.
It can be any user in Active Directory.
Okay, can be any user.
Yeah, it can be any user in Active Directory. I just created that user just to show you how to create a user in Active Directory in case you've forgotten. But okay. I would say if you've got a user in Active Directory, select a user in AD. And
okay, so the first question is this: after I must have deployed this virtual machine, can an other Active Directory user log in to the virtual machine?
Yes, that's what Active Directory is. Other users can log in if we give those users permissions. Yes, that's what you would do. Or our company, I have 70 or 80 people logging into ABDs every day in one department.
Yeah,
so yes,
I know that all system in domains, all users can log into them, provided they have Active Directory username and password.
That's all you need is an Active Directory username and password, and you can connect.
All right, thank you.
Cool. No, it's a good question. So if I come into here, let's just see how this is doing. No, I think Azure are working on that node because I know from experience that deployment should have taken place. So we'll just wait for that to deploy, and then we'll be good to go. So again, at the end of the day, like I say, the reason I've done this is to show you two things. One, because I know there was a problem with Australia node, because I got an email from Microsoft. So again, the Australia East node. So again, showing you here, you can create multiple pools. So for example, that could be a different pool name. Of course, you can't rename those pools. So it's important when you deploy your infrastructure, you have some names that you might call this one, I don't know, your company name. And then you could do -sales, company name -standard users, company -IT support, or whatever the case may be. I think you could also have multiple, departments too in there as well. So you can have as many pools as you want. Again, another thing that you can do is, like I say, at the end of the lab, we would go back into our resource group, and I could go ahead and I could actually click on that resource group. And let's say I didn't want it. I right mouse click, say copy, and we just say, let's go ahead and delete all of that. And if you notice, before I delete it, you can see it's created a desktop access group, AVD pool, there's our disks. So all these things are being created. And if you look here, it's creating these logins. Remember I said AVD1 and AVD2. And it's looking for Active Directory logon for Windows, Azure ADD, not AD logon. It's looking for Azure Active Directory logon. So it's doing a lot of things in the background. And I want you to see what happens under the hood, because that's what, again, makes you a good engineer. So I don't need that anymore. So I'll just go ahead and delete that and say, yep. And that would delete that group, and that's fine. Wait for this to deploy, and then we'll carry on, because the rest of the lab is literally 15-20 minutes and we're done. The longest part of the lab is waiting for the deployments to complete, and it shouldn't take too long to complete. Like I said, some of your deployments may have completed already. Again, if you navigate into your Azure Virtual Desktop, you go to your host pools, you will see your host pools will be there. And look at this here. Can you see this one is coming online? What does it say here? Breadth first? 1. What does it say there? Breadth first,
Yeah,
0.
what?
So the top one
There,
says 0. So this tells me there was a problem with that pool will probably work once Microsoft finished doing their maintenance. Again, we'll just kind of wait for that to deploy. And again, we just stand here and we wait for the deployment to complete. But again, what Teresa said is so, I can't stress how important this is. And document stuff, put your name on the documentation. Put your name on the documentation. And remember, try and document stuff that you can read, because I see some people have documented stuff and they go, huh? And they look, well, you wrote the document, you can't even read your own doc. And that's happened so many times. You'll sit there and you go, oh my goodness. And now that person's got to try and figure out what they've written. So that's why I say, take your time, document stuff, and then we say ready to go. So the reason, like I said, why this lab's taking a little bit long today is because I wanted to show you that you can create multiple pools, number 1. Number 2, if you're getting a deployment and it's taking its time for those virtual machines to come online, something's gone bump. And it may not be you. It could be Microsoft doing maintenance, because Microsoft don't have to email you individually and say, we are doing maintenance. They expect you to look at their bulletin boards and stuff. Microsoft, they're a law unto their own when it comes to to certain things, like patches and updates. They will just release them where they want. And some patches, they'll release, you install them, and they crash the servers. They crash your network. So always test your update in an isolated environment first before you deploy it, because it doesn't work all the time. So again, always paying attention to the bell notification is so crucial.
And Ryan,
Ryan?
correct me if I'm wrong. I believe that Microsoft usually roll out their updates like the second Tuesday of each month.
Absolutely correct.
So kind of know that schedule. And so you don't want to do anything. You got to tell your client, let's do this next week. Don't do it the second week of the month.
Perfect.
And also, what I'm gonna advise everyone, because I happen to be on the beta phase on Microsoft release. So when they're doing a beta phase, it's better to just use a different system from your company's system to run any test on beta phase. I remembered when the Windows 11 came out, and there was an upgrade that came in, one of the upgrade of the patches that came in, and it actually crashed a whole lot of Windows 11. And I had the luck because I tested on the beta phase. So you can actually enroll to be on the beta phase to get all those features first hand and get to know what exactly the problem is before taking it to your workstation, because putting it on your workstations can crash a lot of things down. And I also experienced something 7 days ago, and when I got my mailing version crashed, and I was like, what's going on? I found out that I actually logged in on the wrong site at the wrong time. So for me, just pay attention on that. Don't complete your both systems. Don't be very, very careful. If possible, get a system that you're using for your test and the one that's on your workstation. Just get something different from it. Because what we regarding this deployment, if you're gonna be deploying on your workstation and you're missing a step and you're not supposed to do that, it's gonna crash the whole lot. And sometimes it tends of getting back to your resource group, deleting everything from your resource, your containers, whatever you've been created, you're going to delete all of them and start all over again. So just be careful with whatever system you're using to run your test.
You want to impact you only, not the entire organization.
Yes, I mean, absolutely. Yeah. You'll be surprised how I've seen people run tests, especially the dev guys. They really are terrible. They run stuff in a production environment and it just causes havoc. But with what you've said with Patch Tuesday, that has saved my bacon so many times. Microsoft call it Patch Tuesday. And correct, you don't want to be doing stuff in that thing because that's just asking for loads of trouble. Again, like Tamedia said, if you're testing stuff, have it in a separate environment. Do not deploy it in a production environment, because that is just asking for trouble at the end of the day. Always, like I say, isolate that environment. If you're using Azure, create a separate subnet, because a subnet will segment your network. And then you can say, right, there's a subnet, log into that thing and do whatever the hell you want there, because all you're doing is you've isolated them to that environment completely. If you are too scared about subnets or you don't have confidence, then and you want to deploy stuff, use Hyper-V or VMware and put your machine in VMware and then put that update on there, and then test it. And then if it crashes, then you know that's not going to work. Again, also set up policies, because I have policies set up in my environment that until I've checked the updates queue up, then I will run through a test and then I'll deploy them. Because sometimes getting those updates to deploy automatically, just like Teresa and Tamedia said, is welcome to the wild, wild west. This is going to be fun. Hold on, Dorothy, we're not in Kansas anymore, man. And then you're the IT person, and guess what's going to happen? They're going to be coming to you, and you're
going to get the blame.
Correct. And as you know,
it has happened to me. You know, I witnessed it firsthand. That's the reason I'm actually saying this. And all I had was I had over 4 very experienced engineers. So that was my rescue link. The whole I had to do was, guys, this was what I did, and please, this is what you need to do. This is what you need to do. We had to do it overnight for 48 hours. Everyone was on the system for 48 hours straight. We only had 10 minutes break for every 6 hours. So as the senior cloud engineer, I was always there telling them, do this, please do this. And from then, the next thing I started doing after that was getting into the Windows 365 and doing all my shit on the Windows 365 environment. And I don't want to play with anything at all that has to do with the computer space or the workspace or the workflow.
Yeah, and I'll also add here, you know, because I'm very big about documentation. the other thing that I would say is if you run into a problem, right? Fix it, but go back and document what you did wrong and what's the solution. So just in case, 6 months down the road or a year later, it happens again, you know what the solution is. So make time to go back and document what the issue was, because you're going to understand what that is. And then also document the solution and put your name on it.
Absolutely. I mean, you are so right. I mean, that's happened to me in the past as well, where I've fixed something and I've said, this is how I fixed it, but then I forgot to say what the problem was. And I had to sit there and think. And then it's like, okay, I can't remember. Okay, well, if it happens again, then I'll write it. But that's bad thing, because we've got so much going on during our day. So you're absolutely right. And I do that now. It's now second nature. This was the problem. This is how I document it. And in case you guys don't know this, there's a thing, hopefully Microsoft will fix it. I don't know. It's been there for a few years now, so I don't think they're in a hurry. If you have a virtual machine that you have installed in Azure Active Directory Domain Services,